Welcome back to Scorecard here on Citi TV. Let's get into that Liverpool game. Coach, let me start with you. Makeshift defense, Gerald Kwanzaa. A young man in there, born, he has Ghanaian heritage, eligible to play for Barbados, Scotland, England, and Ghana. Very interesting. 20-year-old, 6'3" centre-back. Played in place of Van Dijk, who was suspended. Konate is just coming back from injury. Didn't do badly at all, but Liverpool's defense in that first half looked really shaky. They could have conceded 4 goals. I'm sure Wolves will be very upset with themselves.
Exactly. If you are the manager of Wolves, this game should have been out of sight in the first 25 minutes.
Yeah.
With Wolves comfortably in the lead, that will mean that Liverpool themselves wouldn't have fancy any form of comeback. Look, truth be told, you want to blame Jurgen Klopp for the shape of the team. I think that if you are a manager and you don't have your first choice at hand, you can clearly see that maybe apart from Man City, they are the only team who's got 2 setups, with each setup being equally good or that good. So when the first setup is not on the pitch, then the guys who come to replace them, the standard is not dipped. So Jurgen Klopp put out this Liverpool team to play in a certain way, reminiscent of his main team, asking Joe Gomez to do things that technically is not within his DNA. That pick the ball as a right forward when Liverpool is in possession, go infield and add up to the midfield. Ahmad could do that because he's technically that good with the ball at his feet. So that made sure that anytime Wolves realized that Joe Gomez had vacated his right fullback, all they needed to do was to tell Neto to stay very wide. So anytime they got the ball, they went diagonally to Neto. And instead of Matip realizing the position of Joe Gomez on the diagonal wasn't the best for him to cross over and shorten the distance of Joe Gomez to go and replace him in midfield, Matip stayed and asked Joe Gomez to be the same player who had gone in to add to the numbers in midfield to come back and play the role of what? A right back. And that completely took Liverpool to the cleaners. And on that side, time and again, Wolves completely bombarded that side. And eventually, I think they should have scored a minimum of 3-4 goals from that side alone. Hey, but in a game of football, 1-0 lead is that fragile. It's a lead that can easily be taken away from you if you don't more or less strengthen that lead by adding onto your goal tally if you have the chance to do so. Liverpool was very bad in that first half. So you remember we did the game on radio and I did say that I just don't expect Liverpool to be that bad in the second half. And truth be told, they were going to get better. Jurgen Klopp wouldn't have accepted that. So again, in that second half, he came back and he never asked Joe Gomez to move into midfield again. One thing that he did so well again was to realize that Alexis McAllister, who had gone all the way to Argentina, traveled a very long distance, had problem with pace, had problem with the tempo of the game. Because look, from Europe to South America, back to another country in South America, and back home and back to England, the jet lag is something that would definitely have a toll.
But even get injured if you play.
And so when he took him off, that brought a bit more energy to the Liverpool setup. And Liverpool was chasing the look. Credit must be given to Mohamed Salah. We were talking on radio and we did say that he's a prolific goal scorer. But when he decides to pick the pass, he's often than not been very spot on. And look at the pass. You want to argue, let's say, the first goal, it was a shot across. But that Robertson goal, the pass, for him to have seen that pass, and then the weight behind the pass, that is what good players or excellent players will do. That is the difference they make. I'm so much interested in the weight behind the pass. Another player would have put too much weight on it, and because Robertson had to run into space to meet the ball in front of him. And all he needed to do was to just put his foot through it, and he did that superbly by our standard. Credit must be given to the Liverpool players because look, when most often after international break and these big teams come back, because most of them, their players are involved with their national teams, they tend to disrupt the chemistry of the coaches working with them and getting to prepare for the task ahead. I'm not sure that Jurgen Klopp had more than 2 days to actually work with this team to prepare for Wolverhampton and all the other managers who had the core of their teams go for international breaks. So for them to have come back from a goal down to win 3-1, credit must be given to them. But one thing that also they will have to admit that if Wolves was very clinical, like Brighton was against Man United, there wouldn't have been any comeback for Liverpool. So it's a good win for them, but they need to improve defensively.
Eddie, your takeaways from that game?
Look, I'd like to highlight Szoboszlai for Liverpool's equalizer. And I think that is why they bought him. Could you imagine James Milner or Jordan Henderson running through the midfield, just bursting through that midfield to create that chance? No, you couldn't have last season. That Naby Keita is the closest player who could have done that for Liverpool, but he would have probably pulled something making that run. So that buy of Szoboszlai has been very important. You not only have a player who can control that midfield, you have one who can drive through the midfield when things don't seem to be going well passing-wise. You have a player who can shoot from range, and you have a player you can depend on. And I think that's most important. On Salah, I think his goal-scoring responsibilities have been reduced because Liverpool have so many options up front. Cody Gakpo, who can score goals. Diogo Jota, Luis Diaz, who I still maintain has been Liverpool's best attacking threats this season. And you have Darwin Núñez on the bench, who again came off the bench and was very impressive when he came on. So Salah has a lot of weight has been taken off him. So he has more space, more time to start picking out passes. And I've always maintained Salah is a fantastic passer of the ball when he's given space. So Wolves allowing him so much space, we are not going to see that from the biggest teams in the Premier League this season. For Liverpool, they will definitely be concerned that it seems this season in particular, they are not imposing themselves right from the start. Jurgen Klopp teams always impose themselves from the start.
If they had faced a better team, there would have been no way back in this game.
There would have been no way back. We saw that against Bournemouth. We've seen that again. We saw that against Chelsea. Yeah, we've seen that against Wolves too. And in those games, it worked. Coming back worked out. They were able to
come back already.
Yeah, they were able to
5 game weeks.
Even against Newcastle, they were under the cosh for a lot of that game, but they recovered. However, you are not going to recover against the very best in the land. You are not going to recover this well against a Man City, against an Arsenal, against probably a Brighton. So they need to watch how they start games, because it's definitely, they've definitely found a recipe to recover from going down by a goal, not starting well. But eventually it's going to catch up with them. And for a Liverpool team that's chasing after Man City, who are perfect in the league, you can't afford these slip-ups.